Don't buy a land now. Do this instead. Oh my goodness. I know what I'm getting myself into. You know, the moment you talk about not buying land, it's a very emotive issue. Joseph, don't speak about land. You know, it means everything. Please, just relax. Sometimes it's good to unlearn for you to relearn. I know. And by the way, you have the right to say something on the comment section. Are we together, right? Let's get on the business. This is good, Joseph. I make videos as far as the investments are concerned, but it does not mean that I know everything. No, it's only that each and everyone has something that they can share with each other, just like an iron sharpens another iron. Let's go ahead, okay? We're talking about not buying land, but doing something instead. Let me explain. I don't know what happens. I don't know where you're watching me from, but if you come from Kenya, we usually have this notion like, hey, you know what? Here we call them plots. Plots, you know, 50 by 100 or whatever the thing it is, feet. Now, we are too much into buying lands because, of course, the ultimate goal of buying lands, it's about building your home. And there's nothing wrong with that. Or ultimate buying land, some people buy it because of what we call the land banking. Okay? Now, what happens, first of all, I want to say this. This is the biggest disclaimer in this video. Land is an amazing asset to buy. Tick. I agree with you. Joseph, I love lands, and you should love lands. What I'm talking about in this video, it's the timing. You know, if you can get a good thing at the right time, it's the best combination rather than getting a good thing at the wrong time. I'm going to give you an example. And I gave you this example before, and I'm going to repeat it again. Okay? You have an example of a guy here called John. Okay? John just got employed, and John is earning, say, 80K. Let's even say John is earning a very good amount of money each and every month, say over 100K. That's like $1,000, okay? Now, this dude is earning that amount of money. As a typical man, a success of a man is defined by the society. It doesn't have to be the truth. By the society, they define a successful man as an individual who has three things: a land and a home and a car. Those are the three things. And of course, you could come from a traditional makeup, make kind of a thing. They tell you, hey, start with the land, build yourself a home, and then buy yourself a car, which is not necessarily the truth. It can actually start the vice versa, because you can have somebody who is doing Uber business or taxi business. You need a car before even a land. That's a fact. So the point is, you find this individual has actually sacrificed to a point whereby the guy has actually saved himself around 1.5 million. The guy does not have any other amount. It is the only piece. That is 1.5 million. The guy embarks. Let's say this guy is around 29. He can't be lucky to be there. I mean, we have people even who make millions even before that age. Let's say this guy is that particular age and he has accessed 1.5 million. This is the only money this guy has, nothing else. And this money where this guy is getting this money is active income. Active income is the money that you have to be involved for you to get it. So the guy has 1.5 million, okay? And he's at this particular age. And then this guy decides to go buy a parcel of land. Now, the thing is, well, in Kenya, if you have 1.5 million, of course, you'll get yourself quite of a prime plot, okay? Fine. Not 2 meters or 20 meters or 100 meters from the city, no, but a little bit further. But I can assure you, it's anything worth $1 million and above in Kenya, it's a prime property, that's for sure. Now, anything that is below 900,000, it's a promising place. But anything below 500,000, I can assure you that is way far. Now, what happens, this guy goes ahead and purchases that piece of land. We have to define these assets into two. There are two types of assets. We have the asset that we call them cash flow generating, meaning it's an asset that generates cash flow, that brings money in your pocket. And then we have the cash assets that are not really cash generating. They are appreciating, because we all know asset is what, appreciates in value, and liability depreciates in value. Now, what happens? This guy purchases this land. It is appreciating in value, but on paper, there's no money coming into his pocket. Now, what happens is that guy has killed his cash flow. Let's say there is another guy here who has a wealth mentality, and this guy is called, let's call this guy who? Jack. So John and Jack, they are two different people, and Jack has similar amount of money, 1.5, but Jack reasons differently compared to John. Jack because the moment John gets 1.5 million, immediately he goes and purchases a land. Why? If you were to do an anatomy of the brain of this guy in terms of the perception to money, John perceives money as a product to be consumed. So the moment you get money should be used to help you acquire some things. But if you come to this guy, takes this 1.5 million and invest it to get approximately, let's say, 15K each and every month. Guess what happens now? Jack still has his 1.5 million, and Jack, the 1.5 million is making him an extra of 15,000. Let's say both of them are earning 100K. So at the end of the month, this guy will get 115K. This guy will still get 100K, and he has a parcel of land which is appreciating. And you can, in Kenya, most lands appreciate at a rate of 7%. You can have investment that are appreciating above 10%. So that means land may not appreciate as fast as, but I stand corrected. To some cases, it can actually appreciate faster. And then this John, there's nothing wrong with acquiring this land. Let's say John doesn't have any idea of value adding that parcel of land, because there are only 4 ways on how you can make money out of a land. 1, you build entrance. 2, you do farming. 3, you lease the land. 4, you sell the land. Those are the only 4 ways you can actually make cash out of it. So if John did buy this land at 1.5 million, and John is banking to have this land for the next 6 months so that he can sell it at 2 million, that is a brilliant idea. I agree with it. That is no longer just an asset, but that is an investment which the guy is looking at it from the point of making money out of it. If John bought this parcel of land with an idea of building a home in 5 years' time, or let's say 6 years' time, so that land will be there for that period of time, and he go ahead and accumulate some cash. Others go ahead and make a mistake of borrowing another money to go and build their own home, not a rental. They build their own home. Now, look at this guy. He takes that money and reinvests it. Because the guy was surviving with 100K, he reinvests that at 15,000 to get more cash flow. And by the time this guy, let's say this guy, both of them, they go for 7 years. You can just calculate how much Jack will end up with in 7 years, understanding that this money is actually compounding. Meaning, whatever is being given back by your money, it's also making money for you. So there is that continuous cycle of making more money. Now, what happens? Am I saying that people shouldn't buy land? No. Let me give you another example. You have somebody here. Let's even use the same names, yeah? Jack and John, okay? Now, these guys, they don't have that amount of money, because liquidating an asset worth 1.5 million is quite of a prime place. So liquidating it's a little bit better and easier. Let's say this guy has saved around 400K, okay? And this guy has saved another 400K. Let's say they earn a salary of 40K. Now, what happens with these guys is that this guy gets this 400K. He grew traditionally being told a man should buy a parcel of land. So this guy goes buys a land worth 400K. And we all know, if you buy a land worth 400K, that can be hundreds of kilometers from where you live. Let's say you buy a land which is, let's say, 200 kilometers from where you live, just because you want to own a land. I know a lot of guys who own this parcel of land worth 400K, which is 200 kilometers away from you. Probably in the highest, you cannot, first of all, this land is not that big, so there's nothing substantive you can do from it as far as the farming is concerned, unless you have this way of doing agribusiness, whereby you can be able to go ahead and have some poultry farming and what have you. You know, I know some places, especially a place called Githunguri, where you have a parcel of land 50 by 100 and guys have several cows there. But that requires capital, okay? Let's say you don't have that amount of money to do so. Then you bought yourself 400K, that's a 50 by 100 plot in like 200 kilometers from where you live. And then you yourself, you live in a city that is full of opportunities where you can actually think about investing this money. I'm not saying business, I'm talking about investment. Sure, this money may not make you huge chunk of cash, but you still have to retain the purchasing power, because whenever an opportunity, knocks on your door, you have to have the cash to tap that opportunity. And the same case, let's say this guy buys that parcel of land, and then Jack goes ahead and buys, investing their money. This guy has bought the land. Land is appreciating, paper appreciation. You can only realize that profit after selling, or after liquidating that asset. And how many here have ever tried to sell a land? Tell me how long it takes. And this guy has decided to get ahead and invest this cash. The cash is actually generating money almost immediately. You put that money today, in 2 days time, money is actually making money for you. Now, I know you may argue from the point of, but hey, what if this guy, his ultimate goal was to just own a home? then you can go ahead and purchase that parcel of land. But if your goal was to create wealth, then going ahead and buying a parcel to build a home may not be the best route to follow if your ultimate goal. And this is how people argue, hey, if I buy a parcel of land and I build, I'll move away from the rent. First of all, sit down with a pen and paper, ask yourself, how much are you paying for your rent? Okay, and then how much will you be paying to live in your own home? Because you'll be paying, and people don't do those calculations because it requires you to maintain, it requires there's some services, you're going to be doing some land rates, you're going to be doing it. You see, you pay to live in your home. That's why to some extent it's kind of liability in one way or the other. It's appreciating, but to some extent there's some sort of like liabilities coming along with that particular thing. I know some of you have already been like, oh, Joseph said that we shouldn't buy a land. No, you can buy a land, but you have to make sure that you understand the timing. When are you buying it? For example, you can have somebody at 45 years. At 45 years. Honestly, this guy is actually transitioning to a retirement. And of course, you need a home up. You need a place where you can call a home. If this guy, they're speaking the language of buying a parcel of land and building a home and what have you, that totally makes sense. And I 100% support them because when you retire, I mean, you need to have a place where you can actually call a home and relax because you're going to be having your your grandkids and what have you. I mean, if you get married and something like that. So the point is, you have to understand what is coming first. You find somebody in his or her life, he has never gotten $1 million. He has actually made his first $1 million. Then you take that $1 million, you go buy as a parcel of land. Then you go back to the concrete jungle to still do what you were doing. Yet you could have used that money to actually help you generate cash flow so that it can actually, ease in some of the bills that you are paying and you still have the cash with you. So, but now what happens now, you can actually push that, investment to a point whereby, let's say you invest this 1.5 million, let's say for like 2-3 years, then you can actually reach to a point whereby you can be like, you know what, I have these soft investments. I think it's the high time now to acquire the hard investments, which are the likes of the lands and what have you. So you must have a way of balancing this. You must have some assets that are generating cash flow, and of course assets that are also appreciating in terms of value. Reason why I'm making this, it's quite funny that when I talk about this mostly in presence of young guys, they bash me a lot. But when I have this conversation to senior people, they agree with me. Quite of an irony, because I usually meet some clients and they tell me, hey Joseph, I have chunks of lands. Have you ever met of guys whom we call them, they are asset rich but cash poor? You find these people, they have a lot of assets, but they don't have. I remember there was a client I met physically. The guy has over 130 acres of land in a very, very prime area. But the guy was struggling to pay for the coffee. He didn't have the cash flow. And the cash is king at all the time. Cash, especially when you transition to the old age. Cash is king. So be careful. You don't just grow old with just parcels of land all over the place. And you don't have the ability to do what we call, making some cash out of the parcels of land that we have. And please, don't be in a business to rush to acquire comfort. I know owning a home. By the way, do I love to own a home? Absolutely, I do. And everyone should aim to owning a home. There's nothing wrong with it. What I'm talking about is the timing. See, most people, they usually sacrifice their cash flow for the sake of acquiring the comfort. And when you acquire the comfort, then you don't have the cash flow. And that does actually bring some problems. So it is good to know the timing so that you can know which one should you pick, which one should you drop. In that manner, we can be able to go ahead and do the appropriate thing. By the way, you can have an individual who needs to buy a car even before land or building a home. That happens. I have seen. It depends on exactly what you do, and of course on what you want to achieve. That's why I said, if your ultimate goal on earth was to own a land so that you can build a home, then owning a land as the first thing in your life, then you are achieving your goal. That's why I've said, this is not a one thing that fits everyone. It is a thing that you have to pick that is appropriate, provided it ends up fulfilling your goal. But there's no way you can tell me how you're on a journey of creation of wealth and then you're starting with, it doesn't work. These are called the principles of wealth, and sometimes they are not even favorable to me or to anybody, but it's just the way it is. It's either you conform to it or you don't. And of course, if you do, there are some things that you get, and if you don't, there are repercussions. This is a topic that we cannot end in a single session. Well, Let me see what you're going to say on the comment section. This is good, Joseph. See you there.